This has been a very exciting week in the AI automation space because Make.com have just released their new AI agents feature, and for the last 2 days I have been completely stuck in trying to figure out how these work, trying to figure out the best practices, how I can hook these up to my existing scenarios, seeing if I can integrate them into client projects that I've already built to save money, to make it even run a bit better, and I've pretty much been able to suss it out. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to run through everything that I've learned, explain how these work, and pass on the value to you guys so you guys know how you can set up and use Make AI agents to their fullest potential. So the whole sort of agenda for this video is, the first thing is I'm going to explain how these agents work and showcase an example agent that I have made, and I'm also going to show you how to create an agent and link it to your existing scenarios if you want to set this up and connect it to things that you've already built. And then I'm going to share some tips and tricks, the best practices on how you can set these up, and as well I have also made a cheat sheet. So we come over here, I have basically compiled everything that you need to know about Make AI agents into this Notion page, and I'm giving it away completely for free. It'll be in our learning center, which you can access in the description, so you can come back and reference this page whenever you need help in building your scenario. But without further ado, let's get stuck in. So before we move on and I sort of describe how these agents work, I want to make it clear that this video won't really be a tutorial or me showing you how to set up a specific agent. I'm going to save that for another video where I'm going to really think of a good idea that I could use and a practical use case that can help individuals and business owners with these agents. But for this video, I'm basically just going to be showing you guys how you can get a feel for these agents, and mainly how they work and the new features that Make has built in, and just helping you make sense of these agents, because at first I was a little bit confused, and I'll explain why now. So initially, whenever Make released these agents, I don't really know why, it doesn't really make that much sense now, but initially I thought that these agents would be attached to modules. So an agent can call certain modules within one scenario and basically just trigger them to get an output. But actually how it works is, obviously a user input or a trigger happens in a scenario, and the agent basically takes that input and it has a goal in mind, and it will call scenarios rather than modules. So this, there could be a couple obstacles in the way that you may not think, or you may not sort of imagine would be in place, before setting this up or before getting into these agents, which obviously I'll break down in this video. But yeah, so essentially an input comes in and the agent will call whatever tool it feels is necessary based on the description to get towards that goal. And I'll show you a better example now. So this is an agent that I have set up over the past few days, and essentially how it works is I have a channel set up in Slack where I can send a message in, and that automatically goes to the agent, and based on the task that I described to the agent, it can call certain tools, and the two main tools are generate a post for social media or generate a blog. And based on the goal or the task that I describe, it will basically think, okay, in order to get to this goal, what tools or scenarios will I need? And then it will call those scenarios, it will define the inputs required, for example, to generate a LinkedIn post or to generate a blog, and then it will basically wait for the outputs, send it back to the agent, and then from the agent it can, put it into an Airtable or just even send it back to you here, and that's what I've done in this scenario here, which I'll show you now. So essentially what we can see is Slack, we have a watch new events module. So we'll receive the message. OpenAI just basically filters if it's a human message, a human input, a task request, or if it's an agent output, because what can happen is basically, because the agent is putting the message back where it got it, it can create this like infinite loop. And I think I burned through like 1,000 operations in about 5 minutes whenever I first got this set up, because I forgot to add this in. So we have a basic filter here where if it's a human message, it will output 1, and then the inputs will go to the agent. And then the agent can call a couple scenarios. So it can call the generate a blog scenario. It can also call get company details, just if it wants to make personalized like LinkedIn posts. And then we have the content automation system, which is an automation that I have made a video on, which we do sometimes use, and it can do this to basically generate a LinkedIn or a Facebook or an X post. And now what I will do is I will run it through an example. And the reason this looks so bad is because the output has basically been optimized for Airtable and for a PDF. So I've just told it to paste the output from the scenarios into back into Slack. So it doesn't really look that pretty, but it does on Airtable. It looks much better. So let me just write out a quick message here. Okay, so I've just said I would like you to generate a social media post for all platforms available about Make.com AI agents and how they can help businesses, and also an SEO optimized blog post. So let's send that in and we'll wait for the output. So just for a bit of a visual breakdown of what's happening, this scenario will be running now, and obviously OpenAI is going to detect that this is a task from a human, so it will send it to the agent. The agent will be able to realize, okay, we're going to need to generate a blog because that's clearly been mentioned. We're also going to need to generate some social media posts, so we're going to use this scenario, and we're also probably not going to need to get company details, so I won't use this one. But if I did say, write a personalized one about, for example, EfficusAI, which is the agency that I run, then it would use this tool and go and get the company details. Okay, so we can see the outputs have been generated. So it has generated a LinkedIn, an X, and a Facebook post based on the AI agent. So obviously this is going to be like the most generic AI generated post ever, because I haven't prompted it to, you know, make the content like entirely optimized. I've just used this for an example and to basically show you the functionality of these agents. And we've got the X post here, and then we've got the Facebook post here. And as well, it's also used to generate a blog scenario. So if we come here, we can see it has generated a pretty decent blog, you know, all automatically. Obviously, we've got the HTML, and we've got the hook for the LinkedIn post as well. So pretty basic, and I'm just essentially showing you. So I've specifically asked the agent to go ahead and generate a post across all platforms. So I could have said, please only generate one for LinkedIn, and obviously because it has access to the tools and it's able to think and reason, it will only call that tool specifically to generate us a LinkedIn post. Or if I only asked it for a blog, it would only generate us a blog. Yeah, guys, so the point that I'm just trying to drill in is that the agents only call the specific tools that they feel will get them closer to the goal, okay? So as we can see here in the actual agent builder, we have the different scenarios that's connected, and based on the input, it will call these tools, it will call these scenarios to get the desired output. So like I've said, this agent that I've built is pretty much in place so you can understand the key concepts and how these agents actually work. But let me know what actual agents you would like me to build, some real, you know, helpful real world use case agents that I can implement and that I can build and that I could give away for free in my next video, because I want to really jump into a detailed long form tutorial of me building like a proper agent that I can throw in, something that's a bit more helpful once everyone is a bit more familiar and warmed up to these agents. But regardless, I'll run you through a basic tutorial now of how you can actually set up an agent for yourself. Okay guys, so to create a new AI agent in Make.com, it really is quite simple. I mean, you can probably guess where you want to go. You want to click on AI agents and come over to create agent. These are the very basic settings that you want to start with. So obviously, example agent, I'll just give it a name. You want to call it whatever. And I think the agent actually does look at its own name based on the tasks provided. So for example, if you have a customer support agent, you don't want to call it a lead generation agent because it'll probably just confuse it. Although it's a theory that I have. I'm not 100% sure if that's right, but it's always just best practice to give it an accurate name. Choose the model. I'm going to choose GPT-4 Mini. I'm just going to say you are an agent that specializes in helping Finley complete admin tasks. How about that? And for the system prompt, it really doesn't need to be long. This will suffice. So you just want to click save, and here we're into the good stuff now. So once you do that, we're into the main agent builder, and everything here at face value looks fairly simple. So we have the system tools, which are the main scenarios that we can add into the agent. Obviously, we also have the system prompt. So there's a few things that I want to talk you through here, because this is where things can get a little bit confusing. So before we do that, I just want to save this and I'll jump into some scenarios. So let's say you want to create a new agent and you have a couple scenarios that you already have set up. There's a few things, a few tweaks that need to be made in order to make the scenario fit for the agent to use. The first one is this little trigger. So essentially what this is this defines when the scenario will run. And you'll see sometimes there will be this little timer, as you can see here, or sometimes it'll be a little like a little lightning thing, like a little streak. I don't even know how to describe it. And essentially that means whenever data hits it, it will trigger, and this essentially means it will run on a timer, so like once every day, for example. And you need to change this because the agent can't use it. What you need to change it to is on demand, okay? And this is obviously said in the agent settings whenever you're setting it up. So that's the first thing you need to do. Secondly, you need to define the scenario inputs and the scenario outputs. So what's going back to the agent and what's the agent passing into the scenario to make it to run. So for example, let's say you had a scenario with a form. Whenever a form is submitted, it will generate a personalized email. For that scenario to run, you're going to need stuff from the form. And without that form being filled out, the agent can run it, but you just need to define what those variables are. So for example here, this is generating a blog, and unless I wanted no variables and I just wanted the same blog to be generated every time, we need variables, right? We need a certain idea, different, chapter numbers, target audience, the main topic of the blog. There's some here are overlapping, just because I kind of rushed this, company details as well to make it more personalized. So these are things that you need to basically describe to the agent that it needs to extract from the initial input to feed into certain scenarios, okay? So in order for the agent to run this scenario, it will need to populate these variables. So for example, if I add one, you want to give it a name. So for example, post idea would be a good one. I don't know why I'm creating a new one. I literally have examples in here. So blog topic, yeah, that's a good one. So this describes the topic of the blog. So the agent is going to read this and it's going to be like, okay, well, I need to populate this variable with the topic of the blog that the user has submitted in the request. And you basically just want to select what type it is, if it's text or if it's Boolean or whatever it is. And I don't know what it is for files. I don't know if you can add files in yet, but essentially what you want to do is just describe the variable, okay? And then that is what will be used. And whenever you want to write a prompt or you want to populate any sort of module with the variables, this is what you're going to have to do. So as we can see here, topic, blog topic. And if you want to access these variables, they're basically over here, scenario inputs that'll be used from the agents. Okay, so we have the blog topic, the company details, and whenever the agent is running this scenario, all of these will be populated. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then once we finish running the scenario, or the agent finishes running the scenario, we basically need to return this to the agent. And you do this via this new scenarios output, okay? So the scenario outputs, okay, you basically need to define what's going back to the agent so it can either complete another task or that it can, send the results back to you via, some other module or call a different scenario. Let's say, for example, if it needed to run this scenario to trigger another one, it needed to get the outputs from this scenario to trigger another one, it needed to make some sort of like API call, for example. Well, then you need to send that back to the agent so that it can go on use it as another input. That's just an example. But anyway, basically this module is just one of the main make.com ones. So if you just come here, you can type in make.com and this is one, and then obviously we can see it down at the bottom. And then the blog text is obviously just the output that we've defined here, okay? And that's going to be, this is the text of the blog that has been generated from the AI modules. And obviously after the scenario runs, that'll go back to the agent. And that is how the agent is able to basically send me back the blog that it generated earlier back into Slack because it's got the output from the scenario. Okay, and whenever you're setting up the main sort of scenario where your agent will be getting inputs and running the task, we can see when we pull it up here, there's a couple additional options to customize here. So we can see all of the system tools. These are one that the agent within any sort of scenario or any situation can access, but you can also add additional tools. Where basically only in this scenario can the agent use them. So I think add additional scenarios your agent can use as tools in this specific case. So yeah, so in this specific scenario, it can use these tools, okay? So you can add different ones here, and that basically correlates with the additional system instructions. So, specifically in this scenario, you should do this, that, the other, etc., okay? And then down here, we have obviously we've got the system prompt and we've got additional messages. So this is where you want to place all of your variables. You can place variables in here, but I feel like it just makes more sense to put the variables in here. And you also have your thread ID. So that basically just allows the agent to remember previous conversations and scenario runs. I don't think Slack is a very good example because I don't think it actually has a thread ID because it's watching all events, not just specific text, but I can have a look into that and obviously get a better example in a following video. So here's details about your specific task, which is the text that we are getting from inputting it into this Slack AI assistant. It takes this task, it determines what tools it needs to use. In this case, we just have the main system tools that it needs to use. And then based on that task, it will call the certain ones. Based on the inputs that we have defined, it is going to be able to extract that. So for example, if I come up here, I would like you to generate a social media post for all platforms about make.com AI agents. So there, it's able to determine that is going to be the post idea and how they can help businesses. And then it also knows that it needs to create an SEO optimized blog post. So it's able to populate populate those variables, populate those inputs to run the scenario successfully, get it back, and then send the result back to me via Slack. Okay guys, so before we wrap this video up, I'll just share a few things that I have found that helped me in building this agent, and I'm also currently working on some client agents that I'm setting up. So soon I will be able to build a really solid agent that I can share and give away and show you a full tutorial and really help educate you guys a bit more. I just wanted this video to be more focused on helping you understand agents and how you can begin setting them up in your own workflow rather than a full tutorial. But one thing I will say is whenever you're building agents, always try to just spend 10-15 minutes to make a basic flow like this, because if you or someone on your team, or you need help with someone, or even ChatGPT, this will just make it visually in your head a lot more clear on how to build it, and it'll just make the whole process a lot more smooth. As well, there's a couple things within the agent configuration, like for example, continue scenario run while the agent is working. I wouldn't put this on. I tried it, and I mean, it just kind of messed the whole thing up, I'm not gonna lie. So definitely keep that off. Another thing, guys, I would try to avoid adding these agents into like a conversational environment like Slack or Telegram, for example. Use EfficusAI for this, but what this will be really good at, and I can already visualize it, is having them already within existing scenarios to just add more functionality and more depth to it. And we're gonna be able to build really complex scenarios here now, because we're actually able to tap into loads of different scenarios from one input. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is in the next video I'm gonna have a full tutorial of how to build a proper good agent. I'm not too sure. I'm thinking maybe like an onboarding agent or something along the lines of that, but like I said, drop some ideas into the comments. So guys, that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. If you would like access to this cheat sheet where I basically just cover the core concepts and the key components of learning these agents, then head down to the description, and if you want to fill out the quick form down there, you'll get access to this. You'll also get access to about 50 make.com templates and other automations, relevance agents, voice flow agent, or voice flow chatbots. You'll get access to the whole heap. So just go down, it's completely free. Just drop your email in and you'll get access. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. I truly hope that this was helpful, because I know when I started with these agents I was a bit confused, so I hope this was easy to digest and that you can go and you can start building AI agents for yourself. So stay tuned for coming tutorials with more AI agent videos. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.